There's this quiet ache that follows you when you grow up being the invisible one, the one who gets brushed aside with a "we'll do something next year," the one who learns to shrink their expectations until even hope feels like a luxury. This year, though, I let myself hope. Just a little. I showed up at my parents' house early that afternoon, dressed sharp, not flashy, just enough to feel seen. I had even bought a new pair of shoes, the kind I knew my mom would notice. Diana, my mother, she always believed presentation meant everything. "People treat you how you dress," she used to say while tugging at my collar when I was younger. But today, she didn't even glance at my shirt. She just kissed my cheek and murmured, "You're early." Her voice had this distant warmth, like when someone's already thinking about something else while talking to you. I stepped into the living room and felt the tension, that fluttering, anxious kind. It wasn't uncomfortable, not yet. Just strange. Everyone was whispering. My aunt clutched her phone like it held the secrets of the universe, nodding at the screen. My cousins, 2 of them, giggled by the hallway. One of them whispered, "Just wait," and they both burst into quiet laughter. My dad, the ever-composed Robert, checked his watch more than once, eyes flicking toward the back patio. And no one said the words, but it floated in the air, thick and syrupy. Something big is coming. I stood there in the kitchen for a while, half smiling, half faking it. Every time someone looked at me, I straightened up, just in case this was the moment. Maybe they were planning something, a surprise finally for me. Maybe the years of being overlooked were about to be redeemed with a single, beautiful gesture. God, I was foolish. I remember overhearing my mom whisper to my aunt, "It'll be perfect, just wait until she walks in." And I didn't ask who she was. I didn't want to ruin it. Around 6, the energy shifted. Someone turned off the porch lights and lit candles. My uncle brought out a tray of wine glasses. And that's when I knew something was about to unfold. I felt a little kid version of me rise in my chest, clutching hope like a balloon. I took a deep breath, and then the door opened. Lily stepped in, my younger sister, her hair perfectly curled, white dress glowing under the fairy lights. And behind her, Brent, her boyfriend, kneeling, ring in hand. The cheers were instant. My mother gasped, covering her mouth like she didn't plan it. My dad's eyes gleamed as he pulled out his phone. Everyone swarmed them, laughing, hugging, crying. I stood back, frozen, smiling, applauding, but inside there was this sharp, cold snap, like glass cracking under pressure, like something that had been fragile for years, finally shattering. No one noticed I hadn't moved. No one noticed I was still holding the small birthday card I'd brought for myself. A silly tradition I kept since I was 12, and in that moment, all I could hear was the echo of what they'd been saying all day. Just wait. Something big is coming. Yeah, it came. But it wasn't for me. I swallowed whatever words wanted to rise, because what would I even say? Instead, I leaned over to my cousin and said, "Wow, perfect timing, right?" She laughed, oblivious, and said, "Isn't it just magical?" Magical. That's one word for it. But the truth? That was the exact moment I stopped waiting for them to see me and started planning what they'd never see coming. Some people grow up knowing they're loved. I grew up knowing I was tolerated. Useful, predictable, safe to forget. It didn't start with the engagement party. That was just the final sting. The wound had been there for years, hidden under polite smiles and hollow birthday cards with no message inside, just a signature, and sometimes not even that. I remember my 17th birthday. It fell on a Friday that year. I'd just gotten accepted into a competitive summer program for biomedical research, something I worked on for months in silence, buried between 2 part-time jobs and school. I told my mom at dinner, quietly, just hoping she'd say she was proud. She was cutting a lemon, tart and barely looked up. "That's good," she said. "Lily got voted vice president of her drama club today. Isn't that sweet?" Lily, younger by 3 years, always glowing. She had this way of walking into a room and making it hers. It wasn't her fault, not really. But it was hard not to notice how everyone bent toward her like plants toward sunlight. And me? I learned to shrink, to clap, smile, disappear when the moment wasn't mine. Which was often. College didn't change much. I stayed close to home. Partly for finances, mostly because I thought maybe being nearby would help. I worked mornings at a bakery, evenings in the campus lab. There was no party, no call from home. Just a text from my dad that said, "Hope your day's going okay. Love you." No one asked about my grades. No one noticed when I made the dean's list, twice. But when Lily made a TikTok that got 50,000 views, they threw a dinner. Dad. Ray, he wasn't cruel. He just floated, agreed with whatever kept the peace. "Let's not start drama," he used to say when I tried to speak up. And I learned quickly. In our house, silence was safer than honesty. Still, there were little cracks, moments when someone noticed. Like Aunt Linda. She used to call me M. Only she did that. She was the only one who looked me in the eye and asked real questions, not just, "How's school?" but, "Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating?" At Lily's Sweet 16, which was practically a red carpet event, Aunt Linda found me hiding behind the kitchen door, picking off pieces of dry cake. She sat next to me and said, "You know, it's okay to feel forgotten, but don't. You dare believe you are." I didn't say anything back, but her words stayed, even after she stopped coming around as much. Mom said it was because Linda got too emotional over nothing. I later found out they had a fight, something. About the way I was being treated. Linda stood up for me, and Mom cut her out like she always did with anyone who challenged her little kingdom. Then there was Uncle James. He was the watcher, always sipping something, arms crossed, saying nothing. Once, at a family brunch, I heard him mutter to my dad, "That girl deserves more credit." But that was it. No one followed through. And when Lily brought Sophia, her now fiancé, into the family, the warmth was instant. Sophia was sweet, charming, laughed at all my dad's dry jokes. My mom adored her immediately. "She's just like Lily," she said one night as I walked past the dining room. "Bright, bubbly, perfect for our family." And me? I became the shadow, the one setting the table, carrying plates, making excuses for not being invited on the group spa weekend they planned accidentally without me. But here's the thing. Being invisible teaches you how to watch, how to listen, how to catch every crack in the porcelain they work so hard to polish. I started seeing it differently. The patterns, the weaknesses, the way my mom's power depended on appearances, how my dad stayed silent as long as his reputation stayed safe, how Lily always needed an audience, and how none of them ever noticed when someone slipped away. They had no idea that the one they ignored was about to be the one they'd remember forever. It's strange how silence can feel louder than any scream, and how betrayal doesn't always come in one dramatic moment, but in whispers, screenshots, and the things people say when they think you'll never find out. The day after the engagement party, I didn't leave my room. I stayed curled, up in my apartment, blinds shut, candles burned out, half-eaten cake on the counter from the slice I brought home, for myself. Just me. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was Layla, a childhood friend who had drifted from the family orbit, but still kept one foot in the group chats. I didn't expect her message. All it said was, "I thought you deserved to see this." Attached was a screenshot, a private family group chat, one I wasn't in. I stared at it for a long time, afraid to open it. When I finally did, My heart dropped. Cousin Jenna had written, "Don't worry about Emily's birthday. Let's distract her with something big." There were laughing emojis, fireworks gifts, even a line from Chloe, Lily's best friend, that said, "She'll probably sulk in the corner anyway." Letter. I felt my stomach twist. And then, my dad's name. Not defending me. Not even neutral. Just a thumbs up under Jenna's message. Like this was all fine. Funny even. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that screen, but at some point, something inside me just shut off, like a light. Not broken. Just switched. Permanently. Later that day, I called Layla. She sounded hesitant. I could tell she hadn't meant to cause drama. She said softly, "I just thought you should know, this wasn't an accident. Lily asked your mom weeks ago if she could do it on your birthday. Your mom said, and I quote, 'Emily doesn't mind being overlooked. She's used to it.'" That sentence. I had to walk to the bathroom just to breathe. Not cry, just breathe, because it confirmed everything I had always been too afraid to believe out loud. They knew. They all knew what they were doing. And then came the next blow. It came through a slip in conversation. A mutual friend mentioning Lily and Sophia just signed papers on a townhouse. A townhouse. When I asked how, she blinked. "Oh, didn't your parents give them the down payment? Diana said it was their engagement gift." My hands went cold. I remembered that very same conversation with my parents 2 years ago. I had found this tiny, beat-up hatchback I wanted to buy to get to work more easily. I asked my dad if he could help, just a little. He sighed, looked over his glasses and said, "Emily, we're just not in a position to help financially. We have to think about everyone, not just one person. Not just one person." But somehow, helping Lily buy a house was everyone? I didn't even feel angry. Not at first. Just empty. Like my entire identity had been some running joke behind closed doors, and suddenly, Aunt Linda made sense. I reached out to her that night. First time in years. I just said, "Can I ask you something real? No pretending?" She called immediately. Her voice cracked. "I was waiting for this call, And then she told me the truth. She had tried to speak up years ago, tried to tell my parents they were playing favorites, emotionally icing me out. She said my mom called her dramatic and told her to stop interfering in how she raised her children. Linda said, "Your mom hates being questioned." When I didn't back down, she told me I was no longer welcome unless I kept things light and happy. I couldn't do it, so I walked. I sat on the floor, listening. Everything clicked. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining the patterns, the neglect, the praise for Lily, the indifference toward me. And then Linda said something I'll never forget. "They clipped your wings, Em, and then mocked you for not flying." There was a long pause. She added, "You don't owe them quiet anymore." That line stayed with me, because for so long I believed my silence was grace. That being the bigger person meant swallowing every insult, smiling through every dismissal, clapping for people who'd never clap for me. But silence, I realized, wasn't protecting anyone but them. And now they'd done it openly. Publicly, deliberately. They wanted me small, compliant, grateful for crumbs. I gave them years of patience, of understanding, of applause for every spotlight I was never allowed to stand under. But now, I was done playing the invisible daughter, because all that glitters might not be gold. But sometimes, even the dullest stone can cut deep if you sharpen it long enough in the dark. Revenge doesn't always wear red. Sometimes it's dressed in quiet, polished shoes, a calm voice, and a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. I didn't throw a fit after I read those messages. Didn't storm out of the group chat I was never invited into. I simply closed my phone and opened a notebook I had saved for years, lived below my means. While Lily got spa days and surprise getaways, I stacked. While they gifted her vacations, I paid off my student loans in silence. While they laughed behind my back, I learned how to invest. And one of those investments? Shares in my father's company. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't walk into a boardroom and slam anything down. It was 3 separate transactions over 18 months, tucked into my brokerage account under initials, Ray, Monroe and Associates. Had been quietly bleeding for years, a family-run contracting firm with messy books and too many cousins on the payroll. I'd been watching, learning, waiting. One name kept popping up on the vendor list, Jenna, my cousin, billing the company under a consultancy that didn't even have a registered office. I called Aunt Linda. Her voice cracked when she picked up. Em? I didn't ask about the past, didn't need to. I just said, I need your help connecting with someone smart and quiet. She didn't hesitate. 2 days later, I was in the office of Mr. Hawthorne, sharp suit, sharper eyes. The kind of man who read people faster than spreadsheets. I told him everything, from the fake group chat to the down payment lie to the whispers. I'd heard about Lily and Brent's finances. He leaned back and said, You're not interested in punishment, are you? You want precision. I nodded, and he smiled. Then let's start with leverage. He brought in someone named Mira, ex-cyber investigator, cold as glass and twice as sharp. No chit-chat, just results. In 2 weeks, she uncovered this. Lily and Brent had submitted a forged asset statement to secure their mortgage. Numbers inflated, co-signed by a friend pretending to be a financial advisor. Illegal, traceable. She also flagged something else. Brent's employer had a strict ethics policy regarding fraud. Any financial misconduct, even personal, triggered internal review. I didn't do anything with that yet. I waited. Instead, I reached out to Marcy, a real estate agent I knew from college. Friendly, smart, still owed me a favor from that. One time I helped her get out of a messy lease. I asked if she could confirm some details about a certain townhouse. She texted back, found it. Buyer submitted a falsified gift letter. Illegal in this state. Want me to forward the docs? Yes, I did. Then I booked a dinner, a casual one. Back at my parents' house, I smiled, laughed, told Lily her engagement ring sparkled like a dream. Congratulated Brent on his new job title, even though I already knew he was 1 audit away from drowning. My dad said over dinner, It's so nice having the whole family together again. You've matured so much, Emily. I sipped my wine, smiled back and said, I've learned it's not always about being the loudest in the room. Sometimes it's about being the one who knows everything, but says nothing. They didn't catch the meaning. Of course they didn't. By then, I had also met Elias, a board member from my dad's company. He'd seen my name on the minor shareholder list and invited me for coffee. He said, You've been buying smart. Most of our board doesn't even know who you are. I said, Perfect. I'd like to keep it that way, for now. He nodded slowly. There's talk about internal review. Jenna's contracts are raising eyebrows. I looked up. Let me know if you need anything. It felt surreal. Being in the background so long and then realizing the shadows were the best place to watch people fall apart. I didn't scream, didn't confront. I just watched. Watched Lily and Brent post curated perfection online. Watched my parents pretend generosity was their virtue, not their weapon. Watched Jenna keep bragging about her consulting empire while Mira quietly built a file thicker than a textbook. And then I waited for the right event. The engagement celebration gala, lavish, expensive, hosted in a downtown venue with glass staircases and crystal centerpieces. Everyone would be there. Even some of my dad's clients, a few of Brent's superiors, the press, family, friends. I RSVP'd, yes, didn't offer to help, didn't ask for a ride. I arrived in a black dress, sleek and quiet, like armor stitched from everything they never gave me. I didn't need a microphone or a toast. I just needed timing. 2 hours into the event, I excused myself to the bathroom and sent 3 emails, one to Brent's company ethics department, attaching Mira's report and the forged loan docs, one to my father's company auditor, detailing Jenna's fake invoices, and one to the regional mortgage authority regarding the fraudulent gift letter and cosigner issue, anonymous, of course, clean, untraceable. Then I returned to the gala, smiling, watched Brent's phone light up, watched him go pale, watched Lily excuse herself from a table full of guests after a single phone call turned her expression cold, watched Jenna get pulled aside by a board member, watched my father's face twitch, just slightly. I said nothing. Just stood near the dessert table, sipping champagne, listening to the crumble, not chaos, not shouting, just the slow, elegant cracking of a family that built their legacy on dismissal. And finally met someone who learned to weaponize silence. Aunt Linda brushed past me that night, pretending not to know what was happening, but as she reached for a canapé, she whispered, "Proud of you, Em." And that meant more than any toast I never got. They still didn't know it was me. They had theories, sure, but no proof. I didn't need to be seen. I just needed them to understand. You can ignore the quiet one for years, but eventually, she learns how to whisper in the right ears. And that's when everything changes. Some storms don't start with thunder. They begin in silence, in the stillness before everything collapses. And when the winds finally come, they remember exactly who ignored the warning signs. The engagement celebration was everything Lily wanted. High ceilings, chandeliers, soft jazz echoing off gold-lined walls, guests dressed in silver and navy, wine glasses never empty. I walked in late, by design and alone. I wasn't there to make an entrance. I was there to end something. From the second I stepped through the doors, I could feel it. The shift. The tension in Brent's shoulders. The stiffness in Lily's laugh. The way my mother's smile froze the moment she saw me. But I didn't flinch. I greeted people, made polite eye contact, nodded. Then, right before dinner, it happened. One of the board members, Elias, tapped his glass gently. He cleared his throat, smiled, and said, "Before we raise a toast, the company has one. Update to share. As of this quarter, we welcome a new majority shareholder, someone with keen observation, discipline, and long-term faith in our future. Emily Monroe." I didn't smile. The silence was instant. Then whispers. My dad turned, blinking, like he wasn't sure he'd heard it right. Jenna's champagne glass trembled. My mother's lips parted. No words, just that look. The one. She used to give Aunt Linda when she disobeyed the script. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Minutes later, Jenna's phone buzzed. She looked down, paled, and slowly walked out toward the back hallway with her phone pressed to her ear. Her fiancé followed. Neither came back. Across the room, Brent's manager arrived. He wasn't on the guest list. He wasn't smiling. He pulled Brent aside. They spoke in hushed voices, then louder ones. Then Sophia, Lily's beloved, curated, image-perfect partner, stepped up beside them, holding her phone. She showed Brent something. His mouth dropped. Sophia didn't shout. She simply turned to Lily and said, "You lied to me about everything." Then she walked out. No drama, just finality. Lily ran after her. Guests turned, the music dimmed, and in the middle of it all, my mother tried to recover. She clapped twice. "Let's move on, shall we? Some of this is being blown out of proportion," but no one listened, even Dad. He looked at me. For the first time, really looked, and I saw it in his eyes. Not anger, not confusion, recognition, maybe even regret. I walked past my mother, who tried to intercept me. She touched my arm, forced a brittle laugh, and whispered, "What exactly are you trying to prove, Emily?" I leaned in slightly. My voice didn't shake. "You said something big was coming." I let the silence hang, then added, "I agree. It just wasn't what you expected." I kept walking, past the stairs, past the ruined faces, past the people who'd built a world pretending I didn't matter. In the back corner, by the caterer's exit, Aunt Linda stood quietly. She didn't say anything. She just placed one hand over her heart and nodded. And that's when I knew. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I just needed truth loud enough to echo in the silence they once buried me in. I left the party without saying goodbye. No final glare, no smug exit, just me, slipping into my car, windows down, the night air clean and still. I drove with no music, just the sound of the road, and the quiet inside me finally settling. For the first time, in years, I wasn't waiting to be seen. I saw myself, and that was enough. Aunt Linda's voice echoed in my memory. "Don't you dare believe you're invisible." I didn't anymore. I was working on something, a scholarship in her name, for kids like me, the ones who sit in shadows but carry galaxies behind their silence. Let them shine before the world tries to dim them. I don't hate my family, but I no longer shrink to keep their comfort. That's the difference now. And as I turned down the quiet street toward home, I whispered something to no one in particular. They thought I was the forgotten one. I smiled, eyes on the road ahead, but I was just the quiet storm they never saw coming.